Chardon, hey, true crime fans. Welcome back to another episode of Chardon, hey, true crime. I'm your host, Dakota. With me, as always, is the lovely Kate.
That's me.
That is her. And tonight, we are coming at you with part 2 of the Toybox Killers. That's right, part 2 of Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris.
Did you say toy box again?
I did, god damn it. Toolbox. The Toolbox Killers. I keep doing that. I keep accidentally doing that.
That's okay. I think you've only done that twice, and this is episode 2, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad, right?
They're just too similarly.
Yeah, I'm used to these guys I actually hadn't really heard of before I decided to do them for this episode. So, I was just like, well, and I'd heard of the Toybox Killer before. So yeah, I don't know.
It's just you're more familiar with, like, you're more used to talking about the Toybox Killer because they were, the Toybox Killer was already a little bit more established in your mind.
Exactly. So that's what happened. But anyways, so that's right. We're back talking about Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris, the Toolbox Killers. They're called this because of the various different things that they would use to murder their victims. Now, we talked in the first episode about their first kill. But in this, we're going to talk about the rest of them because these idiots only ended up killing 5 people, which, as far as serial killers goes, makes them serial killers. But,
And with how meticulous they were, like with how much they planned and I don't want to say practiced, but they kind of set things up to get them moving. Like, you would think that they would have killed more.
You would think, but no. Unfortunately, however, their crimes have left an extremely lasting they've had an extremely lasting effect on law enforcement and on people involved in the case, and we'll get into that at the end of the episode. But before we do, I want to give a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about a lot of torture in this episode. We are going to be talking about some really fucked up shit. Murder, obviously. But the depiction of torture is the biggest warning that I want to give all of our viewers and listeners, because this is actually going to be extremely dark. Just a heads up. So with that said, I'd say it's time to crack the wine.
Ooh, we love that sound.
Yeah, we do. It just reminds me of that TikTok that I sent you, though.
You'll have to narrow it down. You've sent me a lot.
The one where the girl put the pasta in her mouth and then had her boyfriend crack her back, and then she bit the pasta, and he was so scared that he literally dropped her. It's literally my favorite. That's literally my favorite TikTok right now.
Oh my god, it was just so funny.
He thought he killed her, and then he just threw her to the ground,
just in horror. Just oh my god,
the horror on his face. Oh my god, the absolute pure horror on his face. That poor guy.
And just the way that it went, just like the scream, and then what, and then no.
She said in comments that he actually thought he killed her. She said he thought that he actually killed her for a second, and his instinct was to just drop her like a sack of potatoes.
Like a sack of fucking potatoes.
That's what she said. That is literally what she said. She said like a sack of potatoes, and I was just fucking wheezing. Oh my god, it was so funny.
I'm pretty sure that was how I described it too when you first sent it to me. Just like you just let her fall like a fucking sack of potatoes.
Yeah, probably. That's probably what I said, because I thought it was fucking hilarious. But anyways, let's get back to the Toolbox Killers. I swear to God, if I say Toybox Killers again, I'm just ending the stream. All right.
No. Then
So,
we just
where we
go
left
back
off-
into talking about the Toybox Killers.
Yep, exactly. And then we just go back to talking about that fucking idiot.
We just bounce back and forth.
So where we left off, Roy and Lawrence had just murdered their first victim, Lucinda Lynn Schaefer, who was known to her family as Cindy. And yeah. So anyways, so on July 8th, 1979, 2 weeks after the murder of Cindy, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris encountered 18-year-old Andrea Joy Hall hitchhiking along the PCH. For those of you who aren't familiar, the PCH is the Pacific Coast Highway.
Whoop,
and as the pair slowed the van to offer Hall a lift, another car pulled up and offered her exactly that, which she accepted. Now, that really upset Lawrence and Roy because, hey, they're taking our victim. What the fuck?
Hey,
That's
we were
our
going to kidnap
victim.
her.
Yeah. Did you see that, Roy? They kidnapped our victim.
Just wow. That they just like swooped on in and stole her right from under our noses. That's just rude.
They are so rude. We should follow them.
Yeah, I think we should. Ooh.
I think we should follow them. Yeah. That's a good comment here from Ethan saying, "Oh my God, killer wars." Right. So anyway, so they decided to follow the vehicle from a distance, and once they saw Andrea get out of the car that had picked her up all the way in Redondo Beach, they pulled over, and Roy Norris actually hid in the back of the van, hoping that Lawrence Bittaker, being alone or seemingly alone, would entice her to get into the car a little bit easier than if it was two men alone, you know?
Yeah, honestly, like men in cars, just regardless, no.
Yeah, no.
It's a no from me.
It's the masculinity for me.
It's the windowless van for me.
It's the men in cars coming up to women being like, "Hey, want to get in my car?" For me.
It's the men for me.
It's yeah, it's all of it for me. So anyway, so they pulled over, and Bittaker offered Andrea a cold drink from the cooler located in the rear of the van. Now, she accepted, was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, cold drink. That sounds bomb." And so she goes and she opens up the sliding door to the van, and that's when Roy Norris attacked. He jumped on her, and after a strenuous fight, he managed to finally subdue Hall by twisting her arm behind her back, causing her to scream in pain. Now, they said later they would say that Andrea was like a bigger girl and that she was really strong. And at some points in the fight, she almost overpowered Roy. And he was actually afraid that she would like beat the shit out of him.
Oh.
Which honestly, I wish had happened.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Whoops.
That would have been really nice. So after she screamed, that gave Roy the opportunity to gag her with adhesive tape and bind her wrists and ankles. Now, from then, they drove her to the location in the San Gabriel Mountains where they actually passed where they had taken Schaefer, so deeper into the mountains. Now, at this location, she was raped twice by Lawrence Bittaker and once by Roy Norris. And while Lawrence was raping her for the second time, Roy saw what he believed to be a vehicle approaching. That caused Lawrence to put his hand over Andrea's mouth and drag her into the nearby bushes as Roy drove in an unsuccessful search for the vehicle that he thought he had seen. When he returned, the pair drove to a location further in yet to the San Gabriel Mountains, and Lawrence forced Hall to walk uphill naked alongside the road and then perform oral sex on him before ordering Andrea to pose for several Polaroid photos.
I'm glad
After that,
actually, never. Like, what? I was gonna say, I was glad it wasn't. I was glad it wasn't Roy, but like, regardless, it shouldn't have happened. It's bad either way.
You're glad that Roy wasn't the one posing for photographs?
Yeah, because you said Roy at first, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I messed up, but yeah. Anyways, so Lawrence and Roy then drove Andrea to a third location where Lawrence again had her walk a nearby hill, this time as Roy drove to a nearby store to purchase alcohol. And when he returned, Lawrence was alone and in possession of 2 further Polaroid photos he had taken, both which depicted Andrea's face and expressions that Roy later described as being of sheer terror, as she begged for her life to be spared. Lawrence informed Roy that he had told Hall he was going to kill her and challenged her to give him as many reasons as she could come up with as to why she should be allowed to live before thrusting an ice pick through her ear and into her brain. Yeah. He then did the same thing on the other ear and then stomped on it until the handle came off in her skull.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And if that wasn't enough, Lawrence Bittaker then strangled her before throwing her body off a cliff. So these guys are just they're going all out.
That's a lot of fucking rage he must have.
Right? Seriously. Now, Lawrence is the one who, you remember, he's the one who actually had no problem with killing. But Roy was the one who had Roy was the one who had assaulted women before.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had it backwards in my head, but yeah. Okay. I remember.
And that brings us to our next victims. And unfortunately, this is 2 girls at the same time. It's very unfortunate. So on September 3rd, Lawrence and Roy observed 2 girls named Jackie Doris Gilliam and Jacqueline Lee Lamp sitting on a bus bench located close to Hermosa Beach. Lamp and Gilliam had been hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway before Bittaker and Norris observed them as they were waiting and hanging out at the bus stop. They offered the girls a ride, which Lamp and Gilliam accepted, and inside the van, both girls were offered marijuana by Roy, which they accepted. Shortly after entering the van, they seemed to realize that Lawrence had steered the van off of the PCH and was driving in the direction of the San Gabriel Mountains. When the girls protested, both Lawrence and Roy attempted to calm them down and gave them excuses, which, neither of the girls fell for. Now, unfortunately, one of the girls was only 13. Yeah. And that was Jacqueline Lee Lamp. Now, she attempted to open the sliding door when she did that, Roy Norris hit her on the back of the head with a bag filled with lead weights, knocking her unconscious before powering the 15-year-old Gilliam. Now, as he began to bind and gag Gilliam, Lamp regained consciousness and attempted to flee the van again, whereupon Roy twisted her arm behind her back and dragged her back into the van. Now, after this struggle, Lawrence, noticing the girl As this struggle happened, Lawrence, noticing the girl's struggle was in full view of potential witnesses, stopped the van, punched Gilliam in the face, and assisted Norris in finishing binding and gagging the two girls. Gilliam and Lamp were driven to the San Gabriel Mountains, where they were held captive for almost 2 days, being bound and gagged between repeated instances of sexual and physical abuse. Both men slept in the van alongside their two hostages, with each alternatively acting as a lookout. So, Roy would sleep for a bit while Lawrence would keep an eye out, and then Lawrence would sleep for a bit while Roy kept an eye out. And again, this is another one of those instances where these guys are actually kind of smart.
Yeah.
It's honestly surprising to me how few, like you said, it's surprising how few victims they actually ended up with,
Yeah, seriously. They were so thorough and I can't think of the other word I'm looking for, like meticulous with their planning, I guess.
Yeah.
That you would think that they would have gone on more of a spree.
You would think, but these aren't spree killers. These are I don't know the exact term, but they're not spree killers. They're more in the moment kind of killers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't think of the word either, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's opportunity killers.
There we go.
Yeah, opportunity killers. So on one occasion, Lawrence Bittaker walked Jacqueline Lamp up onto a nearby hill and forced her to pose for pornographic pictures before returning her to the van. Bittaker also asked Roy Norris to take several Polaroid pictures of himself and Gilliam, both nude and clothed. And in the first of 3 instances in which Bittaker raped Gilliam, he also created a tape recording of himself raping her, forcing the girl to pretend that she was his cousin, and informing Gilliam, feel free to express her pain. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. There is a lot to unpack there.
That is a lot. Was it this story, or was it somebody else that we covered who came on to his cousin?
I think it was this one. It was this one, yeah. He came on to his cousin before. Yeah, he came on to his cousin before, and his dad was like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Apparently he's not over that.
No, apparently not. So, anyways. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. So later, Lawrence would claim that he buried this tape in a cemetery, and the tape recording of her rape was never actually found. So that is still possibly out there somewhere, which is fucking horrible.
Yeah, if it exists at all.
Seeing as this happened in California, I could have driven by that cemetery,
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah. So, Lawrence is also known to have tortured Gilliam by stabbing her breasts with an ice pick. And for whatever reason, these guys are so obsessed with nipples. What is it with serial killers and nipples? I don't understand it, because they tore off one of her nipples with a vice grip.
Don't like that.
I don't like that either, but also I'm curious about what it is with serial killers that they're so obsessed with ripping off nipples. I just don't get it.
I don't either. It's just I can't even think of a possible reason. What's with the anger directed directly at nipples?
No idea.
Not a clue.
The tips of boobs are really insulting to serial killers, apparently.
Apparently.
The tips of tits. But anyways, so after almost 2 days of captivity, Lamp and Gilliam were finally murdered. At Bittaker's subsequent trial, Norris claimed that he had suggested that Gilliam be killed quickly, as unlike Lamp, she had been largely cooperative throughout her period of captivity, whereupon Bittaker said, no, they only die once anyway. Gilliam was then struck in each ear with the ice pick and then strangled to death.
Ugh.
I don't like it.
That's so horrible.
It's really terrible. So, after Bittaker had murdered Gilliam, he then forced Lamp out of the van, and upon exiting the sliding door, Bittaker shouted to her, "You wanted to stay a virgin, now you can die a virgin," before Roy Norris struck her on the head with a sledgehammer. Ugh.
Yikes.
Lawrence Bittaker then strangled her until he believed that she died, and when she opened her eyes, she was again bludgeoned by Roy Norris repeatedly as Lawrence Bittaker strangled her to death. And the bodies of the two girls were thrown over an embankment into the woods. It's fucking awful. It's fucking awful. And unfortunately, it only gets worse from here.
Isn't there only one victim left, though?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. There's only one victim left, and it's bad.
Oh, boy.
So, on October 31st, 1979, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris abducted their final victim, 16-year-old Shirley Lynette Ledford. She was abducted as she stood outside of a gas station, hitchhiking home from a Halloween party in the Sunland Topanga suburb of Los Angeles. So Sunland Topanga area. Anyways, so the investigators believe that she accepted a ride home from Lawrence and Roy because she recognized Lawrence Bittaker, as he's known to have frequented the restaurant in which she actually worked at as a part-time waitress.
Yeah, I wouldn't accept a ride from any of my regular customers.
I have accepted rides from customers, but literally it was just because they were like customers / friends of other friends, you know?
Yeah.
So, it was like, there was like a time where I was gonna catch a ride back to my friend's place where I was staying after work. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go get a lift. And a friend of a friend was like, hey, I'm leaving right now, too. Which way are you going? I was like, oh, I'm going east. And she was like, oh, I'm going that way. I'll just drive you if you want. Like, you can save money. Don't have to take a lift. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But it was only because she was a friend of a friend that I said yes.
Yeah, so you had like that extra layer of like familiarity. Like
exactly.
someone who is just a regular customer.
There's literally only one regular customer that I would accept a ride from, and that was at the bar that I worked at. And it's because she has like a driver, and like she's super, like, she's very nice, very rich older woman, but she's awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's different.
Yeah, I have actually. So we got a comment here saying, have you worked with the Freak Show Deluxe crew? Yes. Yes, I have for the past.
Yes, you have
for the past 3 years. I'm on their website.
Yes, you are very familiar with Freak Show Deluxe.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it was. You missed them when they came to Oklahoma this year. Oh, I'm sorry that you missed them. They're a lot of fun to work with. I love them so much. I've loved those people for a very long time, and Kate's met Thomas, who is Tommy Gunn, who is the
What a
leader.
sweetie.
Oh my God, one of the nicest men ever, right?
Such a sweet guy.
Oh my God, he was so much fun. I love just sitting and talking with him. Like, it's honestly one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's like I'm not in the world of sideshow, but like I like being around the people, you know?
Yeah.
It's just so fun and like just so interesting hearing everybody's stories and experiences.
Yeah. You wish he would blog more. I get that. I do too, because I follow his blog as closely as you do, I'm sure. I will let him know that you said that, though. I'll text him and be like, hey, even in my show, people are saying you should blog more. Come on, man, get it together. All right, so let's get back to this. So upon accepting the offer of a lift and entering the van, oh my God, I just forgot her first name. Shirley was offered marijuana by Roy Norris, which she refused. And then Lawrence Bittaker drove the van to a secluded street where Roy drew a knife and then bound and gagged Shirley with construction tape. Lawrence then traded places with Norris, who drove in an aimless manner for excess of an hour, as Lawrence remained with Shirley in the back of the van. After removing the construction tape from the girl's mouth and legs, Lawrence Bittaker tormented her, initially slapping and mocking her, and then beating her with his fists as he repeatedly shouted for her to say something. And when she began to scream, he would shout for her to scream louder. As Shirley continued screaming, Lawrence began asking her as he struck her, "What's the matter? Don't you like to scream?" As she began to cry, she pleaded with Bittaker, saying, "No, don't touch me." And in response, Lawrence Bittaker again ordered her to scream as loud as she wanted, then began alternately striking her with a hammer, beating her breasts with his fists, and torturing her with pliers, both between and throughout instances where he raped and sodomized her.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I told you this one is the worst of all five.
Yeah, already.
Yeah, this is absolutely the worst. So the worst part about this is all of this is taped.
Oh.
Yeah. And reportedly, through the tape, Shirley can be heard pleading for the abuse to stop and making statements like, "Oh no, no," as the sounds of Lawrence Bittaker hitting her with a sledgehammer or the pliers from the toolbox. And it's described as constant screams emanating from this tape. And Roy Norris has also stated that it was just constant screams coming from the back of the van as he drove around aimlessly. Now, shortly after, Roy switched places with Lawrence Bittaker, and he himself switched on the tape recorder that Lawrence had used to record much of the time that he had been having in the rear of the van with Shirley. Now, Roy first shouted for Shirley to go ahead and scream or I'll make you scream. And in response, she began to plead, "I'll scream if you stop hitting me." And then let out several high-pitched screams as Roy encouraged her to do so until he finally ordered her to stop. Roy then reached for the sledgehammer as Shirley Ledford, seeing him do this, screamed, "Oh no!" Roy then hit her once on the left elbow, and in response, she informed Roy that he had broken her elbow before pleading, "Don't hit me again." In response, Roy again raised the sledgehammer as she repeatedly screamed no, and then hit her 25 times on the same elbow with the sledgehammer before asking her, "What are you sniveling about?" as she cried. It's downhill. It's downhill from here. Yeah, normally Kate and I like to make fun of these people, and we like to, do a little bit of improv and stuff while we're talking about all of this, but
there's nothing to joke about here.
There's really nothing to do here. Nothing at all. So
and like given the gruesome nature of this, like it almost feels disrespectful to like even try to make a joke right now.
Absolutely. To answer your question, this is part 2 of the episode that you saw on Tuesday. This is the Toybox Killers part 2. Question in the comments. So after approximately 2 hours of captivity, Norris honestly, I hate saying this, but thankfully killed her by strangling her with a wire coat hanger, which he tightened with pliers. Now, she didn't react much to the act of strangulation, although she did die with her eyes open.
Oof.
Yeah. Now, Lawrence then opted to discard her body on a random lawn in order to view the reaction from the press, and the pair drove to a randomly selected house in Sunland and discarded her body in a bed of ivy on the front lawn. Her body was found by a jogger the following morning, and an autopsy revealed that in addition to having been sexually violated, she had died of strangulation after receiving excessive blunt force trauma to the head, face, breast, and left elbow. Ugh, God. Why are they so obsessed with breasts? I don't understand that. Maybe it's just because, secondary sexual characteristics or something that, really, I don't know. These guys hate women, and,
they really do.
Maybe it's just because they're so feminine looking, like these people that hate women, that kill women, maybe it's because they are feminine. I don't know.
That's all I got.
All right. That's really the only thing that I have as well. They also said in the autopsy that so this is the medical term, her olecranon had sustained multiple fractures. That's basically that's basically your elbow. So it's the end of this bone right here is got a little bit of a socket right there. That's this part.
Huh.
Yeah.
I
know. Multiple fractures, but it was on her left arm. So right here.
Hi.
I know. So, all right, let me fix my sweatshirt real quick. Alrighty. I have to have sleeves that are here, because if they're up here, it bothers me.
I get that.
It's a weird quirk. It's a really weird quirk. But anyways, so her genitalia and rectum had been torn, caused in part by Lawrence Bittaker having inserted pliers into her body.
Ew.
I don't like it. In addition, her left hand wore a puncture wound, and a finger on her right hand had been slashed. Now, Lawrence would later claim that the tape recording the pair had created of Shirley's clear abuse and torture offered nothing other than the evidence of a threesome, adding that towards the very end, Shirley Ledford was screaming for him and Norris to hit her and kill her. Hey, you know that tape that y'all are saying is proof that I tortured that lady? That's not actually what happened in that tape.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What? What? What are we supposed to think it is?
It's only proof that we had a threesome.
With sledgehammers?
That's what she was into. Don't kink shame, man.
When she's screaming, "Don't hit me! No, don't hit me!"
She didn't use her safe word, okay? Her safe word was ketchup. Because she worked as a waitress and she had to deal with a lot of ketchup.
Are we really supposed to believe that?
Are you a part of the BDSM community?
You don't know my life.
You don't know her life.
The BDSM community does not involve the use of sledgehammers and ice picks.
You don't know what she was into. She was into some really heavy shit, man.
Well, now we got to listen to it again just to see if there's any element of truth to this.
You gotta listen to her to say ketchup, but I swear to God, you're not gonna hear her say it because she didn't say it, and that was her safe word. And if you listen to the end of the tape, she asks us to kill her, so that makes it okay.
We have no way to establish that she had a safe word in place, so you have nothing to go off of there, but we will listen
You
for
can
it.
ask Roy. Roy knew what her safe word was.
That's hearsay.
That's not hearsay. Well, yeah, it is, because we heard her say it.
All right, just for that, he's got to be guilty, right?
We heard her say it. Those
That
words
upset me. That upset me.
I saw that. Oh God, that was so bad. We needed something light after all of that fucking torture because, like, honestly, like we needed something light.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. God. All right. So, in November 1979, Roy Norris became reacquainted with a friend named Joseph Jackson, an individual with whom he had been previously incarcerated with at the California Men's Colony. Now, here's actually a really funny thing that I remembered about the California Men's Colony. Do you know who else was at the California Men's Colony? Very high IQ from California.
From California.
Hmm. Come on. You got it. You got it.
Is it who I'm thinking? Is it your favorite?
No, Gary Ridgway was from Washington.
Well, I knew that's where he committed his murders, but I wasn't sure if he was from there. Fuck.
No, it's not Gary Ridgway.
Who was it?
Think Santa Cruz.
Okay,
all right. Let's see if this refreshes your memory. All right. Hey guys, so I know that I am best friends with you cops, but I just wanted to let you know that I murdered my mom.
Oh my God! I know who it is.
Ed Kemper.
Kemper! God damn! Ugh!
She's so
That's
mad.
Tall Boy, right?
Tall Boy.
God,
Tall Boy
I knew it was Tall Boy. Dang it! Ugh!
Tall Boy Ed Kemper.
I'm angry.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can't believe I didn't remember Ed Kemper.
Yeah, so Ed Kemper, he was at that he was there in 1964.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was there in 1964, and then he was released in 1969. So it was, after the fact. Well, actually, when was Roy there? Let me check really fast because
I feel like it may have even been around the same time.
Well, Roy was in San Diego in 1965 and then deployed to Vietnam in 1969. So I don't think there was really any overlap.
Mm.
Oh wait, no. All right, hang on a second. It was Bittaker who was also there in 1957, and he was there until he turned 18, which would have been if he was in
Oh, that was a bad sip.
You good?
Yeah. Just had a bad sip.
40. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's really any overlap between Ed Kemper and these guys, but just, the fact that they all were at that same place is just kind of interesting to me.
That is definitely interesting.
Anyway,
small world.
Fun fact.
California is a big state, but it sure is a small world.
No kidding. No fucking kidding. I was just getting a bunch of text messages about something that really just proves that it is a very small world. And I was just sort of like, oh, okie dokie. Like, it's about, I'll tell you about it later. It's not important. But anyways,
Okay.
so in 1979, Roy Norris became reacquainted with his friend Joseph Jackson, who was an individual with whom he had been previously incarcerated at the California Men's Colony. Now, Norris confided in Joseph, saying, telling him about his and Lawrence's exploits over the previous 5 months, including graphic details of the murder of Shirley Ledford, the only victim whose body had been found at that time. Roy also told Jackson that in addition to the 5 murders that they had committed, there were 3 additional incidents where he and Lawrence had abducted or attempted to abduct young women who had either successfully escaped their attackers or in one instance had actually just been raped and released.
Eesh.
I hate the way that I said that too, just raped and released. Like it feels like fishing, and I don't like it.
No, that's a bad time.
Yeah. So upon hearing the confession, Jackson consulted his attorney, who advised him to inform the authorities, and he agreed, and he and his attorney informed the LAPD, who in turn relayed the 2 men to the Hermosa Beach police. At Hermosa Beach, a detective named Paul Bunam. I almost said Paul Bunyan, and I was like, that's wrong. That is wrong. Do not read it that way. Because I had been saying that to myself all day whilst I was writing these notes. Literally just sitting there going, Paul Bunyan. It's wrong. And I have to remind myself of that when it comes to the actual show. No, Dakota, they did not talk to Paul Bunyan. Jesus Christ.
Hey, Paul Bynum.
Paul Bynum. So anyway, Paul Bynum was assigned to investigate the claims as to the confessions of murder, the attempted abductions, and the rapes that he had confided to Jackson, claiming that they had occurred between June and October. Bynum initially noted that Jackson's statement as to Norris's confession did match reports on files of several teenage girls who had been reported missing over the previous 5 months. And in addition, Roy had confided Jackson where he claimed he and Lawrence had sprayed mace in the face of a woman who had then been dragged into the GMC van and raped by both men, which matched a report filed in relation to an incident that occurred on September 30th. In this report, a young woman named Robin Robeck had had mace sprayed in her face before being dragged into a van and raped by two Caucasian men in their mid-30s before being released. Now, although she had reported the abduction and rape to the police, they had been unable to identify her assailants. Bynum dispatched an investigator to visit Robeck at her residence in Oregon to show her a series of mugshots, and without hesitation, Robin Robeck positively identified two photos presented to her as those of the men who had kidnapped her and raped her on September 30th, and those two individuals she identified were indeed Lawrence Whitaker and Roy Norris.
Wild.
So fucking good for her. Good for her.
Good job. You got the right guys.
Yep. All right. So.
Uh-oh.
After what?
Sorry, my notes closed.
Whoops. Want me to wait for you or you want me to keep going?
No, keep going. I just got to scroll a little bit.
We're on page 5, if that makes sense. I don't know. You can't see pages on there, can you?
Nope. But I got it. We're back. I'm good.
I forgot. Sorry. So, anyways. Now, after linking Lawrence Whitaker and Roy Norris to the rape of Robin Robeck, the Hermosa Beach police placed Norris under surveillance, and within days they had observed him dealing marijuana. On November 20th, 1979, Roy Norris was arrested by the police for parole violation, and the same day at the Burbank Motel,
in good old Southern California.
Good old beautiful downtown Burbank. Yeah. Alrighty. At the Burbank Motel, where Whitaker was living. I just lost it. God damn it. Fuck. All right. The same day at the Burbank Motel where he resided, Lawrence Whitaker was arrested for the rape of Robin Robeck. Now, although Robin had been able to identify mugshots of Lawrence Whitaker and Roy Norris in a police lineup, she was unable to positively identify her assailants. Nonetheless, police had observed Roy dealing marijuana, whereas Lawrence had been in possession of drugs at the time of his arrest, and both were held on charges of parole violation. A search of Lawrence Whitaker's apartment revealed several Polaroid photographs, which were determined as to be depicting Hall and Gilliam, both of who had been reported as missing earlier the same year. And inside the van, investigators discovered a sledgehammer, a plastic bag filled with lead weights, a book detailing how to locate police radio frequencies, a jar of Vaseline, 2 necklaces, which were later confirmed as belonging to 2 of the victims, and a tape recording of a young woman in obvious distress screaming and pleading for mercy while being tortured and sexually abused.
Some pretty damning evidence right there. It's all circumstantial.
Yeah, the Vaseline was just their snack. You did that to yourself. That was payback.
I know.
That was payback.
I understand. I accept this.
Okay. I'm glad that you understand and accept that.
To be fair, I wasn't happy about it at the time when I thought that either.
I wasn't happy that I had to hear it.
I had to be burdened with it, therefore so did you.
Well, I thought of it as soon as I saw Vaseline. I was just like, well, it's obviously payback time.
Yeah, I definitely had a moment like Vaseline snack.
What's wrong with us?
We drink too much.
You're definitely not wrong, but yeah. So anyways, so the mother of Shirley Ledford, named by Jackson as being one of the women whom Norris had confessed he and Bittaker had killed, identified the voice on the tape as being that of her only daughter. The voices of the two men mocking and threatening Shirley in the process of her torture and abuse were identified as being Roy Norris and Lawrence Bittaker. Fuck, imagine having to hear that as a parent, you know?
Right?
God, I hate that they did that to her. I hate that they did that to her.
Mm-hmm.
It really upsets me. So also found in the motel were several bottles of various acidic materials, and investigators would later discover that Lawrence Bittaker had planned to use the acidic materials on their next victim. Inside the apartment, police discovered a bracelet that had been taken from Ledford's body as a souvenir. Also found at the homes of both Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris were Polaroid pictures of almost 500 teenage girls and young women, most of which had been apparently taken at Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach, with others taken by Bittaker at a Burbank high school. And most of these pictures had been taken without the girls' knowledge or consent.
Yikes.
You want to hear something really fucked up? So when I worked at the record store, we had this one customer who was really fucking weird. Like really, really, really fucking weird. And he died recently, and he didn't really have any family left or anything like that. So the person who was like running the estate and everything, they called my stepdad and they were like, hey, we know that you knew this guy like for 30 years or something. Like, do you want to come and take anything out of his house? So my stepdad went over there and he found stacks of pictures of women that had been obviously taken without the women's consent.
Ugh.
Just like far away shots of just like women walking, and it's really fucking weird.
Yeah, like candid photos are one thing. That's called like predatory behavior.
Oh, he was busted for predatory behavior, the guy that I knew. Yeah, he was busted for being a creeper. He used to let air out of women's tires, and then he would like discover the women who were like, oh, my tire's flat, like at the mall, and then he'd be like, oh, I can help you with that, and he would like help fix their tire. And then one time he groped one of the women that he like was helping. So yeah, he got in trouble.
Ah, fun.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah, I knew that guy since I was 13.
Party.
I wasn't his type. Yeah. Anyways, so on November 30th, 1979, Roy Norris attended a preliminary hearing in relation to the September 30th rape. And at this point, Roy Norris was beginning to display visible signs of stress. And at the hearing, he waived his Miranda rights before Detective, oh God, what did we decide his name was?
Bynum?
Bynum. But before Detective Bynum and District Attorney Stephen Kay began questioning him, initially in relation to the rape of Robin Roebuck, and then in relation to the statements given to police by Joseph Jackson and the evidence recovered from his and Lawrence Bittaker's homes. Initially, Roy flatly denied any involvement in any murders, rapes, or disappearances. However, when confronted with the evidence investigators had compiled, Roy began to confess. And although he did so in an attempt to portray Lawrence as being more culpable in the murders than himself. It was what Bynum and Kay later described as a casual, uncoerced manner. Roy Norris divulged that he and Lawrence Bittaker had been in the habit of driving around such areas as the PCH and randomly approaching girls who they found attractive with offers of a ride, posing with the pair for photographs or marijuana. Most of those who they approached rejected whatever ruse Lawrence and Roy had used to entice them into the van. 4 girls had accepted lifts from the pair and had been murdered, with a 5th victim, their first being grabbed by force. Inside the van, the girls would typically be overpowered, bound hand and foot, gagged, and driven to locations deep within the San Gabriel Mountains where they would be sexually assaulted by both men, then usually killed by strangulation with a wire coat hanger, although 2 of the victims had had ice picks driven into their ears before being strangled. Roy admitted to bludgeoning their youngest victim, Lamp, above the head with a sledgehammer as Bittaker strangled her, and he admitted to repeatedly striking Shirley Ledford upon the elbow with a sledgehammer before also strangling her to death. The bottles of acid found at Lawrence Bittaker's motel, Roy stated, were intended to use on the next victim they abducted, and the acts of torture and humiliation that had been committed against their victims had been for fun.
Oh, well, that makes it okay. It was just funsies.
Yeah. No, y'all just don't understand. We were doing it for fun.
It's just a couple of guys being dudes.
Dudes being guys.
Show me your dick, Steve.
Now, according to Norris, the level of brutality that Lawrence Bittaker had exhibited towards their victims had increased on each successive instance that they had successfully lured a girl into the van. Their final victim had actually pleaded to be killed in order for her agony to end. There was some other, for additional details, he provided further evidence to support this confession. For example, he knew that their first victim, Schaefer, had left a Mead Presbyterian church shortly before she was abducted, and that Schaefer had lost one shoe as she had been dragged into the van. He also knew that part of Shirley Ledford's ancestry was Hispanic, and that Lawrence Bittaker had unsuccessfully asked her to date him prior to October 1979. Here's the thing. These dudes are in their fucking 30s. Shirley was 16. Yuck.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Predators.
It just makes me think of that bit in Dazed and Confused. It's supposed to be funny, but it's Matthew McConaughey going, it's the thing about these high school girls. As I get older, they stay the same age.
Yeah, they stay the same age. Yeah, he's the OG creep. Honestly, the first guy that I kissed was definitely akin with Matthew McConaughey's character. In that he was out of high school and I was in junior high.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yikes.
I was 14, he was 19.
Yeah, that's not great.
No, it's not.
If anything, that's kind of bad.
It is bad. And nowadays, I encourage young women not to date guys that are that much older because there's a fucking reason that girls their own age won't date them. Yeah.
It's because they're creepy.
Even his friends would call him creepy. They were like, dude, that's fucking weird. Oh, you're a cradle robber and stuff. When he and I would be hanging out, they'd call him cradle robber, but he didn't care.
Predators never do.
Yeah. Anyways, so Roy Norris agreed to return to the San Gabriel Mountains to search for the bodies of the girls whose abductions and murders he had confessed in assisting to. In each instance, he brought the detectives to the area where he and Lawrence had disposed of their victims' bodies, and despite extensive searches of the areas where he stated the bodies of Schaefer and Hall had been discarded, their bodies were never found. On February 9th, 1980, the skeletalized bodies of Lamp and Gilliam were found at the bottom of a canyon alongside a dry riverbed, and the bodies were scattered over an area measuring hundreds of feet in diameter. Horrifyingly, an ice pick was still lodged in the skull of Gilliam.
Ooh.
Oh, God, that's fucking horrible. And the skull of Lamp bore multiple indentations, which was evidence of the numerous hammer blows that Norris had stated that he had inflicted. Or not hammer, sledgehammer, sorry. Well, still technically a hammer.
It's a very specific type.
It's a sledge. So in February of 1980, Roy Norris and Lawrence Bittaker were formally charged with the murders of the 5 girls. At the arraignment, Lawrence Bittaker was denied bail, whereas Roy Norris's bail was set at $10,000. And within 1 month of his being charged with murder, Roy Norris had accepted a plea bargain in which he would testify against Lawrence Bittaker in return for the prosecution agreeing not to seek the death penalty against him. On March 18th, 1980, Roy Norris guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder in relation to Hall, 2 counts of rape, and 1 count of robbery, and formal sentencing was postponed. In return for his agreeing plea deal of guilty and to testify against Lawrence Bittaker, prosecutors had agreed to seek neither the death penalty nor life without parole at the upcoming sentencing hearing. On May 7th, 1980, Roy Norris was sentenced to 45 years to life imprisonment with eligibility for parole in 2010.
Damn.
Yeah. We've got a comment here in the comments from OV True Crime saying, yikes, absolutely yikes. This is a whole yikes.
Shall we sip for that yikey?
We will sip for that yikey. Whole entire yikey. Alrighty. On April 24th, 1980, Lawrence Bittaker was arraigned with a total of 29 charges of kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and murder, in addition to various charges of criminal conspiracy and possession of a firearm. He was also charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder dating from December 1979, where he had unsuccessfully attempted to persuade 2 inmates due to be released to murder Robin Robeck in order to prevent her from testifying against him in the upcoming trial. The charges for the rape of Robin Robeck would later be dropped because of a lack of physical evidence, as well as Robeck's failing to identify her attackers in a lineup. When asked by Judge William Hollingsworth as to how he pled, Lawrence Bittaker remained silent, refusing to answer any questions, and in response, the judge entered a plea of not guilty on his behalf. I think they have to say not guilty, like if it's a judge doing it, because the judge can't be like, well, you're not answering, so I'm saying that you pled guilty.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's allowed to happen. I don't know.
That makes sense. Like I feel like if you aren't, if you actively aren't saying anything, you're not admitting to it. So you're not
even admitting to it, but you're also not denying it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but like
I'm not a lawyer. I never studied law.
But like even like on a technicality, you couldn't say that person was like pled guilty to it.
I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah. They can't say that they pled guilty to it, but they didn't not plead guilty to it. Anyways, so his trial began on January 19th, 1981, and he was tried in Torrance before Judge Thomas Fredericks. The star witness to appear for the prosecution at the trial of Lawrence Bittaker was his best friend, Roy Norris, who began his testimony on January 22nd. Norris testified how he became acquainted with Lawrence Bittaker in jail and how the pair had formulated a plan to kidnap, rape, and kill teenage girls. Now, responding to questions from the prosecutor, Roy Norris stated that in June 1979, he had unsuccessfully attempted to abduct and rape a woman who had escaped unharmed. And when he informed Lawrence Bittaker of this incident, they both agreed to act together on all future abductions. Roy Norris then chronologically recounted for the court the details of each of the 5 murders he and Bittaker had committed, in addition to the September 30th, 1979 rape of Robin Roebuck, the attempted abduction of a woman named Jan Malin, which had also occurred on September 30th, and the attempted abduction of an unidentified young woman on September 27th. Lawrence Bittaker appealed his conviction and sentencing, citing procedural errors such as the validity of warrants used to authorize the search of his van and motel room, and the dismissal by the judge of a woman initially hired at the stage of the jury selection to advise the defense counsel in matters relating to jury views upon the death penalty. Nevertheless, Bittaker's appeal was dismissed on June 22nd, 1989, with the court ruling that any procedural errors were minor and, in the view of the very strong evidence against Lawrence Bittaker, did not affect the overall verdict. An initial execution date for Bittaker was set for December 29th, 1989, and Bittaker appealed this decision, although on June 11th, 1990, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the decision that he be executed. A renewed execution date was scheduled for July 23rd, 1991, and he again appealed the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court that he be executed and was granted a further stay of execution on July 9th, 1991. Thus meaning the execution was put on pause for a bit.
Yeah.
Fast forwarded. Yeah. Just fast forward to the execution. They were like, oh, you gonna keep wasting our fucking time? All right, fine. You're getting killed tomorrow. How's about that? Tomorrow.
Just, you can't do that.
Fucking try me. The judge, I'm a bad bitch. Try me.
Just, I'm a bad bitch. I can kill you.
So, anyways, Bittaker granted several death row interviews following his 1981 conviction, and he never expressed any remorse for his crimes, repeatedly stating that the only remorse he had felt had been for the fact that he and Roy Norris were arrested, thus ruining his own life. Despite the fact that Lawrence Bittaker considered his life to have been a wasted one, he also marveled that he and Roy Norris had little in common before their acquaintance at the California's Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo in 1977, before adding that they had one hell of a lot in common now.
Yeah, a little bit.
They were in the 70s, but Ed Kemper was still there in the 60s. He was there in 1965 to 1969.
I think that's what we said, yeah.
Anyways. Tall boy Ed Kemper. I love that that's sort of become Ed Kemper's nickname, is just tall boy.
He was so tall.
He was so tall. He was like 6'7", 6 foot. Yeah, he was 6'7".
He was like 6 foot a million.
Mm-hmm. Ed Kemper, if he had just stuck to like just killing his mother and his grandparents, I would have had, some sympathy for him. But he killed other people, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So, in reference to one of the implements he and Roy Norris had used to torture and murder their victims, Lawrence Bittaker responded to letters he received with the nickname Pliers Bittaker. Pliers.
That's a terrible nickname.
He called himself Pliers.
That is a terrible nickname.
It's terrible. OV True Crime has a good comment here. They said about Ed Kemper. I think it's about Ed Kemper being 6'1". They said word, and then I hope he got punched in the face a lot in jail. Bruh, me too. Seriously. Oh, your name is Pliers? How about that?
Yeah, I thought they meant Ed Kemper for a second there, but I was like, I don't think anyone could reach his face. Him too tall.
God, right? God, seriously. He's too tall. Okay. All right. So, while incarcerated, Lawrence Bittaker, being the fucking waste of goddamn space that he was, filed more than 40 frivolous lawsuits over issues as trivial as his being served a broken cookie and crushed sandwiches in the prison cafeteria, which he cited as an example of his being subjected to cruel and unusual punishment.
Bruh.
I would like to put him and Varg Vikernes in the same room. Remember how Varg used to bitch about how prison wasn't like bad enough?
Oh yeah, I do, because he was so edgy.
Oh my god, Edgelord Varg Vikernes.
The original edgelord.
No, Euronymous is the original edgelord, let's be honest. Varg.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, my mistake.
Varg grew into it. But no, seriously. Yeah, I'm sitting here in this prison and, you know, they only have the PS2. Why am I being treated so terribly? I'm being treated too well. And then, you know, there's Lawrence Bittaker being like, my cookie's broken. Why? Why am I being treated so unfairly? This is cruel and unusual punishment. Even Varg would be sitting there like, bruh, you're fucking kidding me, right?
Just.
Are you fucking kidding me? What?
Just look at this cookie. You see this?
Yes.
There's a crack in it.
Yes.
This is an attack on me personally.
This is what you call cruel and unusual punishment.
It's pretty unusual to me.
All right, you guys, you know what? I'm fine with the PS2. It's okay. Yeah. Can you just like beat the shit out of that guy though? Yeah, even Varg would just be like, all right, you know what? I'm done being extra about prison. I'm just gonna be okay with where I'm at right now because fuck that guy.
Just hey, I hate him.
Euronymous would get along with him because they'd both be whiny little bitches together.
Truly.
Euronymous is the only victim I don't feel bad for. I honestly do not feel bad for Euronymous. I'm sorry, but like he's the only victim I don't feel bad for.
Yeah, because
he's a fucking cunt.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get really worked up when I talk about fucking black metal musicians from goddamn Norway. Norwegian black metal, god damn it. All right, anyways, so he was finally declared a vexatious litigant in 1993, meaning he was no longer allowed to file bullshit lawsuits.
Oh my god.
He's just doing this to vex us.
Just, you know what? No, fuck you. You're not allowed to talk about the law anymore.
But I have problems. You guys,
they're your problems now.
You smushed my sandwich.
You would have smushed it in your mouth. Just fucking eat it.
You guys, you gave me a sandwich, okay? You gave me it's a peanut butter and jelly. You remember that sandwich that you gave me yesterday, the peanut butter and jelly?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gave it to me with the jelly on top and the peanut butter on bottom. That is cruel and unusual. The peanut butter goes on top and the jelly goes on bottom. Who the fuck do you guys think you are?
Flip over the fucking sandwich, you piece of shit!
So as a result of this declaration of him being a vexatious litigant, he was not allowed to file lawsuits without the express permission of an attorney or a judge.
That's so fucking funny.
The only attorney that he could get at that point was like the attorney from The Simpsons that like takes every case. Oh, what's his fucking name?
Just no more lawsuits. Cutting you off.
Lionel Hutz. That is the only attorney that would take those fucking things anymore. Like, that's it. Just Lionel Hutz.
Oh, that's so funny.
Thankfully, Whitaker finally fucking died while incarcerated on death row at San Quentin State Prison on December 13th, 2019, at the age of 79. I know, right? And his death was reported as being due to natural causes. Do you think when they found him dead, they were like, God, fucking finally?
Probably. Just, some peace and quiet.
After listening to this guy talking about his goddamn fucking sandwiches anymore.
Just those cookies. I hope I never hear another fucking word about a cookie ever again. I hate cookies now.
You think that they would like stand outside of his cell and they would like know that like as soon as they found out he wasn't allowed to like file lawsuits anymore, they'd stand out there with the tray with his food and they would just sort of stand there for a minute and then they would just like look at the cookie and then just be like smash it up.
But see, then he could have said something about it being like cruel and unusual because they were doing it on purpose.
Yeah. They would like stand outside his cell and they would be like, hey, Larry, look at this. And they'd like twist apart Oreos and then like drop them on his tray.
And he'd just be like,
They'd just pull the Oreos apart and drop them on the tray and just be like, have fun eating them now, bitch.
Just, it's not even. You didn't peel the cookie clean off. There's cream on both sides.
Oh, you don't like the cream on sides? You don't like that, Larry?
No.
I'm like, oh no, look at that. I'm rubbing them together. There's cream all over the place.
No, you're a monster. I'm gonna sue.
You can't, bitch. The court done said it.
Oh, hilarious.
Roy Norris was incarcerated at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, and he died of natural causes at the California Medical Facility on February 24th, 2020.
God damn.
First coronavirus victim. He died at the age of 72, having been transferred to this facility 1 week prior to his death. Since his conviction, he had repeatedly claimed that the sole reason he participated in the murders was out of fear of Lawrence Whitaker.
Okay.
Norris also claimed having twice contemplated confessing to his and Whitaker's responsibility in the murders prior to being captured by police. And although Roy Norris admitted that he enjoyed the actual intercourse with the victims, he claims that only Lawrence Bittaker enjoyed the acts of torture and murder, stating, "I didn't enjoy killing. That was Lawrence. It was his favorite part, watching the women struggle to live, knowing he'd soon be taking life away." Now, both investigators and psychologists have stated that Roy Norris derived extreme gratification from the domination, abuse, and torture inflicted upon his victims, and that the respective parties have also harked towards Roy Norris's extensive history of physical and sexual violence against women prior to his meeting Bittaker and his repeated instances of denial of culpability from his actions. Now, Stephen Kay, the prosecutor at Bittaker's trial, still considers the murders committed by Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris as being the worst criminal case he has ever prosecuted or encountered, and has remained insistent in his belief that prior to Lawrence Bittaker's death via natural causes, he had been more deserving of being executed than any other inmate incarcerated on California's death row. I would like to make a point here in that at that time, Charles Manson was on death row.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. In interviews, he has stated that for over 2 years following the trial of Lawrence Bittaker, his sleep was disturbed by reoccurring nightmares in which he would be rushing to Bittaker's van to prevent harm coming to the girls, but would always get there too late. Paul Bunyan, the chief investigators of the murders committed by Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris, committed suicide in December 1987. He was 39 years old, and in a 10-page suicide note, he specifically referred to the murders committed by Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris as haunting him, and of his fear that they may be released from prison. The audio cassette that Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris created of themselves raping and torturing Shirley Ledford remains in the possession of the FBI Academy. This recording is now used to train and desensitize FBI agents to the raw reality of torture and murder.
God damn.
Just think about this. Any FBI agent has heard that, has heard the literal murder of Shirley.
It's like, on one hand, I understand that, but also just fuck.
Yeah. Poor Shirley. I honestly, I feel really bad for her family, but I also I hope that the FBI was like, hey, is it okay with you if we use this for training purposes? And her family was like, if someone can learn something from our daughter having been fucking murdered, then yes, but I don't know. I honestly don't know how it came about, but it happened. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That is the story of the Toolbox Killers. I hate them.
Yeah. I am glad they're dead.
I'm really glad they're dead, and I'm honestly a little sad that it took that fucking long for them to die.
Yeah, they didn't deserve to die of natural causes. I'm sorry.
They really didn't. That's one that I would really have liked to have heard their, I would have really liked to have heard about them being, put back into the gas chamber or something, I don't know.
Oof.
We know that the gas chamber is a fucking horrible way to die. But even then, I think that it's too good for them.
Yeah, it's bad. I learned way too much about it.
Robert Alton Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that the most interesting thing about this case is that they could have possibly maybe met Edmund Kemper. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, but it doesn't seem likely, but it's not impossible.
it doesn't seem like their times overlapped. It doesn't seem like it, but the fact that they may have met Edmund Kemper is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, right. And I mean, you know, Ed Kemper, he's one of the more interesting people that we've covered. I find, as a psychology student or someone that's taken criminology classes, I find him fucking fascinating.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I think he's still alive too. Ed Kemper's still alive, right? Yeah, he's alive. He's one that we've got to he's one that we have to write a letter to for our Patreon series.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Letters to a Serial Killer.
yeah. Yeah, letters to a serial killer. We gotta write a letter to him. First question. Dear Ed Kemper, why are you so tall?
Where'd you get that tall?
Can I have some, please? Second question. Why are you so tall?
First question, how are you so tall? Second question, why are you so tall?
Second verse, same as the first. Excuse me. All right, guys. So, if you enjoyed our episode tonight, feel free to check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/ChardonHayTC. That's ChardonHaayTC. And if you want to support the show, see the extra content that we have on there, there's a lot of interesting stuff on there. We are also accepting donations straight to us personally through our Patreon or through our Venmos. You can check out my Venmo is at Dakota's Beard. Kate's is at Kate Ulrich 42. And until next week, say goodnight, Kate.
Good night, Kate.
Good night, and keep an eye out for next week when we will be covering Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. It's been a while since we've covered something like that, so this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited. Like I know a little bit about this, so I'm looking forward to this now.
Ooh, there we go. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to check out our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, and have a great night.
Bye bye.